culture. And one thing that will help us to do that is to take a new look at what St. Augustine argued long ago. Augustine distinguished between two entirely different societies: the city of man, which is characterized by self-love, and the city of God, composed of those who love God and want to serve Him. The city of man will never be God's city. It has a different origin, progresses along a separate path, is moving to a radically different end. Yet those who are members of God's city are nevertheless in the world and need to conduct themselves as a renewing force within it. In this book, I explore how we might go about doing that today. This is not a how-to book, preparing people to picket abortion clinics, lobby legislators, or whatever. It's an attempt to study the problems we face, to think through the options we have, to evaluate these by biblical teaching, and to consider what concerned believers might do in our time. May God help us all to be genuine people of God in the midst of a perishing generation. Part 1. The Collapse of a Culture. I am raising up the Babylonians, that ruthless and impetuous people, who sweep across the whole earth to seize dwelling places not their own. They are a feared and dreaded people. They are a law to themselves, and promote their own honor. Habakkuk chapter 1, verses 6 and 7. Chapter 1. The Barbarians are coming. By the first decade of the 5th Christian century, the Roman Empire had collapsed. Its capital city, Great Rome, had been besieged for months by the Visigoth king Alaric, but at last it had been overrun and ruthlessly sacked by his barbarian hordes. The year was AD 410. The city had been besieged by barbarians before. Parts of the empire had already been overrun by foreign armies. But the sack of Rome was politically and psychologically devastating in a way those other defeats were not. Rome had been master of the world. The empire had stood for 1,000 years and was the very essence of civilization, at least to all who lived in the West. But suddenly it was gone, swept away by the advancing armies of these wild Germanic tribes. When Rome fell to Alaric, the citizens of the empire could hardly assimilate the scope of this unmitigated tragedy, and quite naturally searched about for someone or something to blame. It was not long before blame fell on the Christians, as it had nearly 400 years before for less serious troubles, when Nero had been dipping Christians in wax and setting them on fire to illuminate the killing of other Christians in the great arena. The pagans charged that the fall of Rome had resulted from the neglect of the worship of the old gods under whose benevolent protection Rome had grown great. The cause of this neglect, they said, was Christianity. The Christians were shocked by Rome's fall too. St. Jerome, the great Latin father of the Church and translator of the Vulgate, wrung his hands, crying, "What is to become of the Church now that Rome is fallen?" It was a natural question, since Rome had embraced Christianity under the influence of the Emperor Constantine almost 100 years before, and had been the Church's benefactor, friend, and protector for most of the succeeding decades. Constantine had converted to Christianity after his victory at the Milvian Bridge in 312 BC. In God's providence, there was a man perfectly suited for the challenges of this great watershed era in world history: St. Augustine of Hippo, a town in North Africa. Augustine's early life. Augustine's first name was Aurelius, though he himself never used it. He was born on November 13th, AD 354, of mixed pagan and Christian parentage. That is, his mother was a Christian, his father was not, at Tagaste, a small provincial town in North Africa. His mother's name was Monica, and the passion of her life was that her son might become a Christian. His father wanted him to have a superior liberal education, and by this means eventually to become a great and wealthy man. Augustine